I want to kind of shift gears and ask, growing up for each of you, who were like some super influential mentors? How did they help shape where you are? Did they help you to branch out into other things? Anything you can share on this? We start again with Mario.
Sure. Let's see. So growing up, um, I I really didn't listen to a whole lot of classical music until like the middle of high school. I but I did listen to a lot of jazz and rock and pop. I grew up in a Mexican American household, so there was lots of Spanish music, Mexican folk music. So I had all of this musical just influence in my ear, but I didn't really like invest time into classical music until until high school when I was getting more serious about playing. And my high school was fairly conservative with the music that we performed. We would play like military marches and nothing really written in the 21st century. Um, it was it didn't push any boundaries necessarily, but once I started taking private lessons through the high school, actually, it was really awesome. Once I started taking private lessons, my instructor, who's a saxophonist, introduced me to just contemporary music, and I was just like, wait, music can do this? So like I was pretty late to contemporary music and just classical music in general. And I was just blown away by the fact that music could be, angular, it could be rhythmic, it didn't need to, fit any particular mold. And I just thought that that was so fascinating. So I was really interested in performing this music, through the end of high school into college. I wanted to be a saxophone major to play this contemporary music. I was so excited about it. But yeah, my saxophone teacher, his name was Brent Levine, or is Brent Levine. He now teaches in the Midwest somewhere, I believe. I want to look him up. I have to check in with him now that you're having me think about him. But then I got into college and I have my teachers in college, my saxophone teacher, and then I started taking composition. My composition teachers, they just threw so much music at me, and I just soaked it up like a sponge. And I was so excited about everything that I was hearing, and that's why I wanted to pursue composition in graduate school. I was just amazed by the kinds of music that was being made today that I had no idea about. So, I've invested my life into this music now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm really fortunate to have had so many different mentors in my life, and I think for anyone pursuing, an artistic career, mentors are absolutely critical in pursuing this path. I think, and yeah, I mean, I've had great teachers. I've had a lot of colleagues, slightly older colleagues throughout my college that were kind of like mentor figures. And one of the most important things that they taught me over the years is just um, I think the people that I played with in college are the colleagues that I play with now, and so it just taught me a lot about just being a nice person, just treating everybody with respect. And if you're not and if you're mean, then you're not going to get work in the future, so it's just taught me about building great relationships and just being really cognizant of how you're appearing in that, and they could they're friends for now, they could also be colleagues for the future. And I guess another mentor figure that I want to mention is uh, I really like the music of Frank Zappa, and there was this woman, Ruth Underwood. I don't know if anyone has heard of her, but she played with Frank Zappa's band called Mother of Invention for I think maybe like close to 10 years, maybe in the 90s, and she was this amazing woman who played all these crazy licks on marimba, xylophone, glockenspiel. She was the master of these mallet instruments, and she played in this rock band. And and I thought that was the coolest thing. So that was kind of my dream gig for a long time. I wanted to be Ruth Underwood, and just that, I really like playing these melodic instruments, obviously, and just the thought that, if I played, all these things really well, it's not just orchestra music that could be my future, but it could also be like in rock music too. So it just showed me the versatility of percussion instruments and the possibilities that could happen in the future. So
Awesome. Do you have a favorite instrument that you play?
man, I get asked that question so many times, and it's really hard to answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, the vibraphone has kind of become more or less my main instrument these days, and I also love timpani. I think just the feeling I get of sitting behind four huge drums in the back of the orchestra and playing, like Beethoven, Brahms, like these works. Just the feeling I get is like not really comparable. I feel like larger than myself, being in control of these huge instruments. And so yeah, I love playing timpani as well.
Awesome. And I wanted to circle back to what you said about all the contemporary ensembles that you were playing in at Juilliard. Was there any, I guess I'm just curious to know more about that. Were there any that were like any concerts or ensembles that were particular favorites or particularly big for you?
Yeah, I mean, this was playing in these couple of different contemporary ensembles were really chances for me to obviously get to know the music, but then also get to meet the composers, because a lot of them actually come to the dress rehearsal and the concert, and they give us feedback. And yeah, so through that experience, I met like a lot of like amazing composers like George Crumb, Steve Reich, and one of the most influential people that I met through Juilliard was this composer John Zorn, who is I see some head nods, so maybe I don't need to say too much, but he's a composer who's been kind of pioneering the downtown music scene in New York since the 70s or something like that. And he writes for, jazz groups and just, melding different musicians from all kinds of different genres. And he came when we played a classical piece of his at Juilliard, and I met him then, and we've been working together ever since. So that was one of big turning points in my career.
Awesome. Can I ask what big changes have happened for you both this year with everything closing down, and what have you been working on besides the symposium, and yeah, how has that been?
I guess I can start here. So 2020 was an interesting year. I've been in this spot for the majority of that year, right? I have not left this exact seat most of the time. I'm also, not only do I teach college, but I teach high school as well. So I'm a full-time teacher. But in 2020, I found myself with more time to actually work on my projects, my own projects. So I did actually put out more than I usually do, which is still not a huge amount of music, but it was more than I usually do. And I was pretty happy with my output by the end of 2020, including my piece for the symposium, which I was really happy with. But in 2021, since doing that piece, I've really started focusing on like what is next. So I've really taken the next step in upping my audio production game. So now I'm learning about mixing and mastering audio. I'm currently working on a mixing and mastering a studio recording of a string quartet that I wrote back in 2019. It was recorded actually earlier this year, which is great. But I've also started looking at sound design. I've been really into synthesizers and synthesis for the last few years. This is my modular synth, which I used on my symposium piece. So I've just been really investing time into kind of shaping and refining my sound and my voice. So I haven't really necessarily, quote, written anything yet this year, but it's happening. And I'm currently working on. I've been approached by a saxophone duo, so I'm writing a new sax duo for soprano and baritone sax with electronics. And I'm also writing a new smaller work for string quartet. And I'm also working on a new piece for solo violin with electronics and video. So I'm learning about all of these things and trying to incorporate as much of that sort of outside influences on chamber music into the chamber music experience. Because yeah, I want to do something new that I haven't done before. So using that time to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to this diving into something new this year. Yeah, I mean, this was, you know, I really realized how much I miss things when it's not happening anymore. You know, before, I mean, I was always so busy and just running from gig to gig. And when I couldn't perform anymore, I realized how much that was giving me so much energy. Just in, you know, standing on stage and performing music. But it also gave me time to really, uh, you know, do a lot of self-reflection and, you know, maybe spend time on things that I didn't have time before, like, you know, actually practicing the things that I always wanted to practice or hone in on skills that I didn't have time before. I started, you know, like improvising a little bit more. I started, you know, just writing, like composing things for fun. I had never really composed before, but yeah, I started learning how to use Pro Tools. I started, you know, learning how to make videos and yeah, one of the most exciting and rewarding projects that I got to do this year was this project of trio music that I created with a keyboardist and an electronic musician. And both of them come from more of an improvising, like, free jazz scene. And we basically created an album of original improv-based music. And the keyboardist and I created music in our studio here. And then this was all done remotely. So we sent the stuff that we improvised over to the electronic musician, and she would add her sounds to it, and then back and forth. And we created this whole, this original music in this process. And yeah, and it was really kind of an interesting discovery to find that I really enjoyed creating my own music. You know, for most of my life, I've been a performer of someone else's music, you know, and interpreting someone else's music. But I think there's a limit to how much ownership you can feel in that role. And when I was creating my own music, it was almost a little bit daunting at first to be faced with so much liberty, so much freedom of choice I could make. But then once I started doing it, I just loved this feeling. So this is something that was really awesome to discover, and something I will hope to keep doing in the future.
That's incredible. I look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, maybe I can share a little bit later or something like that.
Yeah, that would be great. Do you I want to ask you both, do you have a dream project, something that you'd love to do in the future? And I'm curious also, with the last question, if this year has helped change or shape what that might be.
Yeah, dream project is interesting because like my dream project has been to sort of do this multimedia type work, and now this last year, with the I've been able to connect with more people through the magic of the internet that I've never really connected with before. Like you all, hi everyone. Although I've connected with you, Nick, but it's been really nice. So I mentioned that I'm going to be working on a violin and electronics piece, a multimedia work. This is something that I've been dreaming about for a long time, and now it's so easy to collaborate with people online. So I reached out to a violinist that I know of, that we've been internet friends. But I said, hey, would you be interested in a collaborative project? And she said, yeah, let's do it. So we talked about the the specifics or the vague specifics, and now the project is sort of in the works. We've applied for grant funding. It's gonna happen, and I think that that's really awesome. And I think that it's, with just a solo performer with video elements, it's really easy to tour. So I want to be able to get this sort of piece into as many spaces as possible. So that sort of thing, and then bringing it to an online platform. YouTube is probably the biggest one, but being able to share something like that has both an acoustic and electronic element with a video component would be really, really great. So yeah, that is kind of my dream project right now. I guess eventually maybe I would do something similar with a larger group, but I'm kind of happy with where this is going right now.
Sure. I mean, that's really awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have like the one, like big dream that I want to achieve in my life, because I think I've always just wanted to make music for a living, and I've been doing that. So I'm just really happy and grateful to have this kind of life in general. And 10 years ago, I couldn't imagine what I'm doing now. And, before that, it was the same. So, but one thing that is kind of like a recent interest of mine is all these multidisciplinary collaborations that I've been doing, and kind of similar to what Mario was saying. But yeah, I feel like there's so many more opportunities for all kinds of different collaborations these days. And I've done a few that were really exciting, but yeah, I've been seeing a lot of really interesting ones. Like I saw this one lately that was like a performance of a jazz ensemble with a chef on stage, and the chef was making like this awesome dish like at the same time, which is really cool, because if you think about it, like a set of music is usually like 1 hour or something like that, right? So, and like you can make like an awesome dish in about an hour or under. So you start at the same time, and by the end of the performance, the music has happened and there's an awesome food that you can eat. So I thought that was a really interesting collaboration. And yeah, I think I would just like to keep creating, these new kinds of collaborations, and just see where that takes me.
That's really cool. That I would like to see that piece. What do you both listen to in your free time? What have you been listening to lately? Is that a tough question, Mario?
What do I listen to? I listen to everything. And I know that that's like such a generic non-answer, but it really is true for me. Like, I want to listen to what all of my high schoolers are listening to. I want to listen to what all my college students are listening to. I want to listen to what my parents are listening to. I want to discover new things. I really listen to as much as I possibly can. And that can include concert music, but it also includes like just field recordings, right? So the sounds of the stream in the park, that also includes noise, right? It's really interesting to hear what artists can do with noise. But top 40 pop, avant-garde classical, fully improvised music, hip hop, rock and roll, jazz, blues. Like, I try to ingest as much music as possible, and I always try to encourage my students to do the same, because they always have their kind of comfort zone that they like to listen to, and I challenge them and I say, go listen to something you would never normally listen to and bring something back to me that stands out to you, and sort of tell me why it stands out to you. So it becomes a really interesting compositional exercise to get outside your comfort zone and see what works and what not what doesn't work, but what stands out and why that particular kind of music is so effective. So yes, what do I listen to? The answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, it's maybe not a question of what I'm listening to, but how I'm listening to it. yeah, I feel like before the pandemic, my main way of listening to music was usually on the commute, like on the train, going to a gig or teaching or something. So I had headphones on and I was sitting on the subway, and that was my favorite way of listening to music. But there's always a little bit of like background noise, or there's like something happening on the train, or there's a lot of like visual distractions. And so lately I've, been spending more time at home, and I've been able to just immerse myself in the sound, whatever it is. Just close the door, and like no phones, no distractions, maybe like turn off the light or something like that, and just maybe turn up the volume a little bit, and just let yourself be in that room. And I realized that it's a completely different way of listening and just taking in the music, not just orally, but just physically, and just the amount of detail, the amount of enjoyment I get from that kind of listening was really different. So I've been enjoying that a lot lately.
Awesome. And I just want to say, if anybody else has any questions and wants to jump in, please interrupt me. Like, I'm just kind of going, but great. And I think you both kind of touched on this a little bit before, but I just want to ask more directly. What are you currently working on? What's in the works? And what's your process around that been?
I can start maybe. Yeah, I was working on this right before this Zoom started, and yeah, like my most current project is coming up with a program for these 2 outdoor concerts that I'm putting on in July, and it's going to be in New York. Or you guys are all based in California, I assume, right? Yeah.
Oh, I'm in New York.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, so I would love to know
Oh,
the
cool.
details.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in outside of Madison Square Garden, apparently there's going to be this outdoor installation of these trees, these cedar trees.
Yeah, I think they're there already, Madison Square
Oh,
Park.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, Madison Square Park, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's a really cool kind of somber installation that's representing the effect of deforestation. Basically, the trees are all basically dead, and they're just there, so I'm coming up with a program for this, and coming up with pieces that kind of match the atmosphere of this desolate, somber vibe. And yeah, just trying to come up with what kind of music can tell that story. So I've been just researching different resources and like different databases to come up. And also another challenge for me is a lot of pieces that are not in public domain are not really playable by me, including percussion. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of arrangements. But yeah, so just kind of trying to curate a program or concert like that. It's my latest project. How about you, Mario?
Sorry, before we go to Mario, can I just ask what's been your kind of highlight of this project, and what's been the most challenging part?
I guess the challenging part is kind of what I said, like I don't want to program pieces that are not really fitting the atmosphere of the place. So just listening to pieces and making sure that, but also this is kind of a subjective thing, so that's kind of like the struggle of curating, I guess, is that you might put on a piece of music that I think is fitting to the atmosphere, but the people who listen to it might not think so, or vice versa. They might find me interesting something that I don't think is appropriate. So yeah, that's kind of a difficult balance, I would say. But yeah, that makes sense.